Hi everybody, welcome back or welcome to my channel. If you're new, my name is Zsuzsi. How are you all doing? I hope that everybody is safe and everybody is happy. This is the weekend and this is one of the most beautiful fall weekends ever, and I decided that I spend this weekend with reading. I had a really crazy work week, so honestly I don't really want to do anything. I just want to chill. I want to read books, I want to listen to books, I want to eat, I want to go and spend some time in nature, but all that I just need to unwind. I don't need anything else in my life right now. And the two books that I will be reading in this reading vlog, or during the weekend I should say, one of them is a fantasy romance, a new release fantasy romance that I will talk about in just a second. But then the other one, let's start with that book, that is The Things We Do to Our Friends by Heather Darvant. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I picked this book up in London. In the spring, I visited England and I visited Scotland, and I wanted to buy a couple of books that are specifically from English and Scottish authors, and this book is from a Scottish author because Heather Darvant is a Scottish author, and if I am not mistaken she still lives in Edinburgh or something like that. And this book takes place at the University of Edinburgh, and I visited the University of Edinburgh. It was fantastic, and I wanted to pick up this book because I wanted this book to be kind of like a dark academia book for me for the fall, and I think that now this is the perfect time to read it. And also, can we just look at that cover? I mean, this is one of the most gorgeous covers that I've seen in 2023. For now, I'm say that this book is dark academia, but honestly I don't know, because what I gathered from, I still have my little Harrods receipt. I bought this book in London. I couldn't buy it in Edinburgh because the Edinburgh bookshops didn't have it, so I had to buy it in London. But anyways, so based on what I gathered from the back of the book and also from the internet, it is so hard to describe this book because I have absolutely no idea what this book is about. I know that one of our female protagonists is named Claire, and she grew up in France, but then she moved to Scotland, and she is a student at the University of Edinburgh, and she is very obsessed with fitting in and fitting into the Scottish culture. And then she meets a group of people, and those people are headed by somebody called Tabitha. And then she becomes obsessed with this group of people, or with Tabitha. And then I guess that our story unfolds. That's all I know about this book. So this is very, mysterious. I have no idea, but I know that it's kind of like a darker tone book. So this is one of the books I've chosen for the weekend. And then the second one is fantasy romance or romantasy book. It is the last book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, A Curse for True Love. Now, I don't have this book because I don't like the US cover, so I ordered my book from the UK and it's not here yet. But I cannot wait any longer because the way the second book ended, I think it was a ballad for Never After or Ever After or something like that. It was just so cruel. When I closed that book, I immediately wanted to pick up the third one, but it was not out yet at the time. Anyways, but it's now released, it's out there. I had to buy the audiobook, but that's okay. I'm going to listen to the audiobook this weekend. I just cannot wait to see how the story unfolds. I cannot say too much about this book because again it's the third in the trilogy, so this is kind of like the finale. And if you want to read Once Upon a Broken Heart, then obviously I don't want to spoil that story for you, and this whole reading vlog will be free of any spoilers. I am a little bit nervous to pick this book up because Stephanie Garber said that originally she wanted this book to be a duology. She never planned a trilogy, at least that was my understanding. And again, this is something that I'm all gathering from the internet, so take it with a grain of salt. But she said that she never wanted it to be a trilogy. So I have absolutely no idea now how she is, you know, going to make a story for the third book. But nonetheless, I am really interested to see how this whole series ends and how everything comes together. And apparently also in an interview, she said that this is not about happy endings. This is not a romance. This is a love story. So that also makes me so nervous, like, oh my god, what does this mean? But this book is one of my most anticipated releases for the fall. I adore the first two books, and if you haven't read Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber and you enjoy fairy tales, then I recommend that you check out this series. I think I can read both of these books during the weekend because these are not very long books. I mean, this is like 150 or something pages, but the font is really big, and the audiobook for the other book, Curse for True Love, it's only like 8.5 hours or something like that. So I think it's totally doable, and this is super early in the morning. I think it's like maybe 7:30 or something like that. So I think it's doable. Now I'm gonna go to the gym, do my workout, then come home, have some breakfast, just chill and start reading this book. And once I read a couple of pages, a couple of chapters, I'm pop back in to tell you about my initial thoughts. But before I update you guys, I wanted to show you this oatmeal that recently has become my favorite breakfast. When it comes to food, I am a creature of habits. When I find something that I like, I can eat that every single day for breakfast, lunch, dinner. It doesn't matter. And I found this oatmeal combination that is just so delicious. I know that it doesn't look good, okay? I know. I tried to do like a close-up to show you guys what I'm talking about. Maybe it looks a little bit more appetizing, but trust me, it doesn't look good, but it tastes really delicious. Because basically I just make overnight oats, and then when I make my overnight oats, I make it with chia seed and hemp seeds and some lean seeds to make it, you know, a little bit healthier. And then the next morning I just add cinnamon, a lot of cinnamon, because I really love cinnamon, some granola bits, and golden raisins, and this whole thing tastes like the oatmeal raisin cookies, and it kind of like looks like it too. Honestly, if you haven't tried this combination, try it. If you want to sweeten it, I don't, because I think that the raisins and the cinnamon, they are sweet enough. But if you want to sweeten it, obviously maple syrup, honey, or whatever, just brown sugar, normal sugar, whatever will do. And it is so good, so filling, so healthy. And honestly, for months now, almost 2 months now, this has been my go-to breakfast. So I'm just gonna go and dig in, and then I update you guys about the book. Okay guys, now it's time for the first reading check-in, because I read about 111 pages in The Things We Do to Our Friends. I am about to start chapter 21, and you know, it's a pretty big chunk of the book, but honestly I couldn't check in earlier because I don't know what to tell you guys. I cannot tell you what this book is about, because this book, in my opinion, it's very bunny-like. To me, for now, it very much feels like Bunny 2.0. This book has no plot yet, or any character development or anything like that. It's all about vibes. And to me, it's always hard to read books like that, because I'm very character driven, I'm very plot driven. I don't mind vibes, but when a book is all about that, that's usually that results in a little bit of a connection issue, you know what I mean? And I'm somebody who didn't really like Bunny because of these reasons. Bunny made me feel dumb because I didn't understand that book at all, and so far that is exactly what's happening with this book. So far we got to know Claire, and we know that she is from France and she is French, and then she moved to Scotland later on in her life, and she's super keen to fit into the English culture. Like, she's trying to pick up the Scottish accent, for example, and she took a job as a bartender in a bar, obviously, and she meets a group of people, and one of these people is Tabitha, and she finds her very charismatic, and kind of that's all I can say. Again, not much plot, and not much is happening just yet. I will continue reading this book because it's definitely, you know, keeping me intrigued. I want to know what's happening, but I am also getting a little bit bored now at like chapter 20, 21 or something like that. Now Tabitha mentioned some kind of project and she wants Claire to get involved in this project, so I guess that this is now where the book will pick up a little bit. At least that's what I'm hoping. I expected a dark academia book, like something cultish taking place at the University of Edinburgh, and I don't think that that's what's going to happen for now, because I've had enough. I mean, 111 pages is definitely enough for me. I am going to pick up A Curse for True Love, especially because I want to go outside and I have a lot of errands to run, so I can listen to the audiobook while I get those things done. And once I have a little bit of more information about that book, I'm gonna come back for my second check-in. So see you soon. Okay guys, so I am here with another reading check-in because I am listening to A Curse for True Love, and I just finished chapter 22, so I'm kind of like halfway, not exactly 50%, more like 40-45% in, and I haven't checked in yet about this book because I didn't want to, because I hoped that I would change my opinion about the book, but unfortunately it's not happening, and nobody is more disappointed than I am to say this, but I am not enjoying this book. There you go, I said it. My problem is that this book is very, very slow. I feel like that nothing is developing. The plot is not going anywhere. We are not getting any character work either. Like, I am just not enjoying it. When I got to chapter 19, I was like, if this was not the last book in the series, probably I would DNF this book because it is so annoying. It is just not working. But then in like chapter 21 and 22, the plot starts picking up a little bit, and because it is the last book and I adore the first two books, I want to know how the whole story ends. So obviously I am not going to DNF this book. I am going to finish it, but it is a major disappointment so far. I cannot really say too much about the plot, again, because this is the last book in the trilogy. All I'm gonna say is that this third book picks up exactly where the second book left off the story, so it's like a straight continuation. And I think that that was a good idea because, like I said many times before, how the second book ended, that was actually really cruel. Now, after reading this, like, first 20 or so chapters, honestly, I think that the author should have gone with the original plan and somehow changed the second book and make this entire story into a duology, because I don't think that this third book was necessary. At least not this for 19 chapters, because I have absolutely no idea, like, what's happening, or I should say, like, nothing is happening. So that's a little bit annoying. The other thing is that I am listening to the audiobook because I don't have the physical book, and a couple of things about the audiobook, and I know that this shouldn't really affect the way I think about the plots or the characters, and it's not, but also the audiobook is a little bit annoying because the narrator who narrates the audiobook is Rebecca Solner, and I believe that she is the lady who narrated Fourth Wing, and she was the voice for what was her name, the female protagonist in Fourth Wing, Violet? Yeah, that was her name. And I said it in that reading vlog, and I say it again. The voice of this lady is very mature to be a 17-year-old girl. When I think of 17-year-old girl with a pink hair, this is not the voice that comes to my mind. So to me, it's hard to have a connection right now with the audiobook. And also, I paid for this audiobook, or I used my Audible credit to get this audiobook, and honestly, it cuts out a lot. There are voice errors in the audiobook, and since I'm already not enjoying this book, it's not helping this whole situation. So I just wanted to put it out there that I am not exactly happy with this book for now, but I have high hopes because it seems like I just finished again chapter 22, and it seems like that things are picking up finally. So hopefully we will get a really nice second part and a really nice ending. But I am not a big fan, and I am super disappointed, not only in this book but also in the fact that both books that I selected for this weekend, it just doesn't seem to work for me. And yeah, I don't know what we can do about this situation. I think the next time when I check in will be once I finished at least one of the books, or maybe both of these books. I don't know, but I'm gonna pop back in to give you my final thoughts. So see you soon. Alright peeps, I'm back with the last reading check-in because I finished both of the books, A Curse for True Love and also The Things We Do to Our Friends. First, I want to discuss A Curse for True Love. I was right the last time when I checked in, when I was on chapter 22 or something like that, and I felt that, okay, the story is beginning to pick up. It is true. The second half of the book is like completely different from the first half of the book. But if I had to describe this book in just one word, that probably would be messy, because that's how I feel about this book. Incredibly messy. But I would describe it as a beautiful mess. I mean, I still read this book within like 24 hours. I listened to the audiobook within 24 hours. And as boring as the first half was, the second part of the book, there were times when I had to slow down the audiobook to like 1 times speed. I was listening to it on like 1.3 or 1.4 or something like that, so not very fast, but still I had to go back to the original like default speed because I was like, wait, hang on, I cannot follow all these plot twists and all these characters. There were no new characters introduced, but every single character we got to know in this book series was there doing something. When we got to chapter 41, honestly, I felt that I was ready for this book to end, and for whatever reason, I was ready for that chapter itself to end. I was so annoyed by all the cliches. I was at the grocery store And as I was listening to the book, I made loud commentary. And there was this one time when I said like, oh, of course he does. And then the guy next to me, I was standing next to me at a grocery store, he looked at me, he's like, what? So, you know, I just had enough and I was like, okay, I am ready to finish this book. But the ending of chapter 41 itself, I think it was very nice. It was super fun. I laughed out loud. But when we reached that point, I was like, okay, I am ready for this book to end. And as far as we're talking about endings, I think that overall, the ending of this book was very, very nice, and the author did a good job wrapping up the series. I would still recommend this series. I love this series. I just love the first two books in the series way more than this one, the last one. This book series, it reads like a fairy tale, but it is a fairy tale, and it's very young and it's very light. And obviously when I read this book, I have to understand that this is not for my age range, because this book is for teenagers, and I think that the message that this book or book series had, it was very much for teenagers. There are so many very valuable messages in this book. It's about hope. It's about having some courage. It's about finding true love and taking chances, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Overall, as a series, I love it. And still, I would recommend it. Reading this book felt to me like watching a Disney cartoon. And I have no idea why. This is not gonna make any sense because there are no connection there. But for some reason, it felt like watching Frozen. I don't know why. I cannot explain my brain, okay? It just like works on its own. I think that there's chance for sequels, because one of the bigger issues that I had with this book was that when we got the ending, which itself was fine, it was the ending of, like, you know, two characters. But then what about the other characters? They just like disappeared halfway in the book, you know, like what about Lala? What about Chaos? What about Aurora? What about Luke? Like what happened to these characters? And like, and even with the plot, there were some questions that the author rose but never answered. So I'm thinking that because this is a very successful series, she is going to write sequels. And I would love that. Like I would love that. I would, and I will pick up those sequels, because this book unfortunately was average to me, but the series itself I adore. The first book and the second book, oh come on. Amazing, amazing books. All right, now let's talk about the things we do to our friends. This book is so hard to talk about and so hard to review, and honestly, I kind of still don't know what to say about this book. In my previous reading check-in, I think I told you guys that the book was about to pick up a little bit, just like A Curse for True Love, because Tabitha introduced a project that she wanted to work on, that she wanted this group of friends to work on, and we spent the majority of the book doing that project, working on that project. And honestly, it wasn't exactly very interesting, but still, for some reason, the book kept me intrigued and kept me reading. And then when we reached the last 25% or maybe even 20% of the book, that's when it starts picking up. Like I put in the mark here so I can tell you. Yeah, chapter 48, that's when again things start to pick up, and then the rest of the book, honestly, I felt that that was really good, and that's where all the action is. Now, when I got to chapter 48, I kind of started suspecting something. I kind of figured out what was happening, and I was right. So, you know, I was able to foresee the plot, and we have such little plot in this book that decreased the level of enjoyment a little bit, but it was still okay. Now, would I recommend this book? Oh, this is a hard question. Why am I asking this question? I think I would, but to a very specific group of readers, because this book has no plot and this book has no character work either. It's all about vibes. The author spent a lot of time creating atmosphere and creating scenes, and if you are somebody who enjoys that, I think that you would enjoy that book. But I'm somebody who needs at least a little bit of plot and a little bit of character work. I don't mind books that are bizarre and far off from reality. I read fantasy, for God's sake. Like, I read a lot of fantasy. I don't have an issue with that. But when it comes to contemporary works, when I don't get anything that's a little bit practical, that's got at least a little bit of how and a little bit of why, then I struggle. And I think that was the problem with this book. No practicality. And one of the things that disappointed me, but this is not the fault of the book, was that I expected a dark academia book. And it's not a dark academia book. The University of Edinburgh is mentioned and school itself is mentioned and like what subjects they are studying, but that's all. Nothing else. And these people, this group of people, they are in their 20s, mid-20s or something like that. Like, we didn't spend any time at school. We didn't get to see anything of the University of Edinburgh or the different subjects or the professors or other students or anything like that. So that was a little bit disappointing. But again, I don't think that this book was advertised as dark academia, but because the University of Edinburgh is mentioned, that's why I thought that it was dark academia. But then Nothing about the school, nothing about the University of Edinburgh. This all being said, I read this book, and I read this book during the weekend, so 2 days, and it kept me reading, it kept me intrigued. I wanted to know the ending, I wanted to know what was happening, so I read it, I finished it. But if you want to read this book, don't think that it is dark academia, don't expect too much plot, and don't expect character work, and don't expect to know much about Scotland or the University of Edinburgh, because you're not gonna get that, but you're gonna get a lot of vibes. The atmosphere is really nicely set, and the author writes really nice scenes. And I must say that I liked the actual writing. I think I very much enjoyed that. This is a debut novel, and I think that the author, considering all that, did a fantastic job. Alright guys, this is it. This is the end of the video, and this is the end of this weekend reading vlog. I hope that you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope that you enjoyed spending some time with me. Hit share, like, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. If you want to check out any of my other videos, I will leave them on the screen, and I see you soon in an upcoming video. Bye!